This time to take stock of 2025 and get an outlook, for 2026. Definitely, that helps you. You learn lessons, from the current year, so that you can, so you don't make those mistakes. If you've made mistakes in the current year, you can start afresh in 2026, and you know what to avoid, so that you make the right moves. And joining us now for a special presentation, we have Mr. Bismarck Rewane, Managing Director, CEO of Financial Derivatives Company. He's going to be giving us a special right here on Business Morning. It's great to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Compliments of the season.
Merry Christmas, Dirty December.
Fantastic.
Okay. There we go. Now, New Year resolutions are to be broken on the 1st of January. We make the resolutions on the 31st of December, and we break them on the 1st of January. But that's life.
Fantastic.
So today we are going to be looking at 2026, because what we say is that it's now here, and lest we forget, that's the title of this presentation this morning, lest we forget. So 2025 was a defining year for Nigeria's economy, and you would see that the lesson George Santayana said, those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. That's very important that we know that. So what are the lessons that we learned from 2025, and what are we going to do in 2026? First and foremost, the macroeconomic scorecard, then and now. 5-year average GDP growth was 2.03. In 2024, we achieved 3.38. And in 2025, we are looking at 3.9. And 2026, marginal increase of 4.2. But remember, bear in mind that the economy, total GDP in this country is $250 billion. And there's an aspiration to make it $1 trillion by 2030. That's not going to happen, because you need to grow about 15% to achieve that. But we are growing at 4%. So let's bear in mind the reality. 2 is that the balance of trade was minus, 5-year average was minus $0.804 billion. In 2024, we achieved $13.13 billion because of the adjustment of the exchange rate. 2025, 7.3, and we are projecting that in 2026, we'll make $10 billion. Well, that's not bad. The revenue, federal government revenue in 2025, this is nominal revenue in Naira terms. 5-year average was 4.8 trillion Naira. In 2024, we had 9.44 trillion Naira. In 2025, 12 trillion Naira. And now we are projecting 18 trillion Naira. The reality is that Naira of 2026 is not the same as Naira of 2000, not the same thing as Naira of 2020. So you have to actually divide what you have by 4 to get the real value when you go back to those days. Oil production, look at oil production, and that's the engine of this economy. 1.49 million barrels, 1.34, 1.46, flat, 1.52. In spite of all of the investment, we are seeing that oil production is still low. Why? OPEC. 2, vandalism in the Niger Delta, and so many other factors. Gross external reserves went from $37 billion all the way. The 5-year average was 37, 2024 was 40, 2025 45, and it's going down in 2026. The exchange rate in 5-year average was 660 Naira to $1. In 2024, we got to 1590. 2025, 1552. In fact, 1490. But we project that a depreciation in Naira to 1560 in 2026. The exchange rate misalignment, the misalignment means that you are saying, how many Naira, what the difference between the parallel market and the official market. The difference was 309, 5-year average. It dropped to 118. In 2025, 22, and now it's down to 18. The smaller this number, the more stable your currency, and the less the currency is exposed to exogenous shocks. Now, this is all red. Federal government debt, 5-year average was 12 trillion Naira. Look at what has happened. From 12 trillion Naira to 144 trillion Naira to 166 trillion Naira, and we are projecting 180 trillion Naira. So you are borrowing, but what are you using the borrowing for? Is it increasing productivity? That's the major question. But almost all countries in the world borrow. You refinance the debt, but you must use it to develop the economy and also to increase productivity. Income per head, this is where it gets very tricky. 5-year average in dollar terms, Nigerians, everybody in the country, had $2,728 per head. Come the adjustments, it's now down to $824, up to $806, and in 2026, we'll go back to 1360. 1360 is less than half of 2000. So basically, in 2026, you'll be half as wealthy as you were in the last 5 years. External debt gets very interesting. Total average of the external debt in 5 years was $10 billion. In 2024, the external debt has increased to $45 billion, now 48, and it's projected to go to 50. The question is, what have you done with this debt? You have to have debts and liabilities. You have to have assets. You have to show the assets that you have used this to develop. Fiscal deficit, as a percentage of GDP, 3.29. The average normally should be about 3%. This would have gone all the way to 8 or 9, if not for the adjustments that have taken place, the fiscal adjustments that have taken place. So this is a sign of progress, where you're having 4.4% of GDP. Inflation average, and here you've got to be careful because there's a change in methodology, and so you have to compare apples with apples. 5-year average of inflation was 21. 2024 it rose to 33. Then we did the rebasing and brought it down to 21.02. Now it's down to 12.7. Back of the envelope analysis, always add 10 back to what you had before, and then it compares you. So basically, if this year if you add 10 to that, that's about 22. It's about the same thing as the former average. So inflation is moderating and is being managed thanks to the Central Bank of Nigeria, thanks to the Federal Ministry of Finance for ensuring that there's less of fiscal rascality here. GDP, 437 trillion, which is equivalent, right, in billions of dollars, $437 billion before our exchange rate adjustment. Now down to 252, and we expect it to increase to 285 in 2085 and 2025, and then to 334, because we are factoring in a 4 to 5% growth. Now, where is the growth coming from? Growth, exchange rate stability is number 1. Oil refining sector, number 2. This sector grew by 19% thanks to the Dangote refinery and the modular refineries. Power sector reform is lagging. Of course, the grid has collapsed so many times. Everybody in Nigeria knows that power is in the toilet. Institutional reform is a work in progress. These are the things that we have to look out for in 2026. Now, pictorially, this was what happened 5 years ago. Refineries are in a complete mess. Queues, every public holiday. Christmas, Salah, New Year, queues. That was then. Now, Dangote refinery, no petrol queues. So it tells you a lot. The economy has made a paradigm shift. And this, why is it important? It's important because petrol is used for cars, diesel is used for generators, transportation of goods to the markets, and it's a major factor in dealing with inflation. The reason why inflation came down, one of the reasons, is because of increased productivity, 1, and 2, the reduction in petrol prices. And you see, cocoa price, one thing we have to look at. This is the map, natural resource map of Nigeria. If you look here, cocoa prices average $2,000 in 5 years, but now it has gone all the way to $12,000. And so what has happened, if you look at this area here, these guys were having a boom in the past 2-3 years in Oyo, Ondo, Ekiti, and Osun State. This is the cocoa belt of Nigeria. The other zone is the oil region, the south region. The price of oil has been coming down, so this region, and then there's the oil theft and bunkering. This region is a problem. What do we have in the resource map here? In the northeast, northwest, and northeast, we have minerals, lithium and others, and that's why if you look at the crisis conflict zones, they all coincide with where the resources are. 1, northwest, where there's minerals, gold. Northeast, where there's lithium, and north central. The south, where there's where there's oil, so resource nationalism. The only place that is safe from this is probably the Southwest, where they were enjoying the cocoa, but that won't last for too long. Next, top 5 economies in the world. We aspire to be like our leaders. The largest economy in the world is the United States. It was $29 trillion in 2024. It's now $30 trillion. The global economy is actually about $107 trillion. So USA is number 1. Number 2 is China, $19 trillion. In 2024, China was $18 trillion. So it's grown by $1 trillion in spite of all the problems they have. Number 3, Germany, $4.71 trillion last year, and now it's $4.74 trillion. Surprise, surprise, Japan was $4 trillion last year, and now it's $4.19 trillion. And look what's happening here. India was $3.89 trillion in 2024. It's now $4.34 trillion. So we are the usual suspects. Where is France? Where is UK? These are the countries to watch, and these are the ones that you have to deal with. Next slide, please. Now, what has happened over the last 50 years? We've seen 5 global recessions between 1960 and 2025. Investment contracts during this period, unemployment increases, and it also coincides with conflicts. Investors move to government bonds, gold, and reserve currencies. The price of gold 50 years ago was less than $1,000. Today, the price of gold is $4,300. In fact, looking to reach $5,000. Investors move to government bonds and gold and reserve currencies, and notably, asset prices recover faster than real investment. Look at what has happened. Please go back to the previous slide. Here, we have stagflation in 1974. That was the Yom Kippur War. Then we had a recovery in 1984, right? And look at the tech boom in 1995. Then we have the global financial crisis. We had COVID, and now the world is in a recovery path. So, but don't forget, Nigeria is 2% of the world's population and 0.2% of the global output. So we are, technically speaking, we are parasites of the economy, right? Next slide, please. So what happened? December 2020, these were the most valuable companies in the world. Total value was almost $2.26 trillion, right? That was Apple, that's Microsoft, and look at all of them. See what they are today, December 2025. Apple is worth $4.01 trillion. NVIDIA is almost $5 trillion. The richest man in the world, Tesla, he has a salary of $1 trillion. His salary is more than half of the total output of the African continent. That's the new world we are in. Right? Next slide, please. So, market capitalization, Nigerian stock market. In 2020, it was 21 trillion naira. It's now 99 trillion naira. Aladi was talking about it earlier. There's a boom period. And the average, look at the average earnings of Nigerian companies. It moved all the way from 1.5 trillion in 2020 to 9.4 trillion naira. So there's a capital market boom taking place in Nigeria. But again, with this sizzle fizzle, the 2026 is going to tell us a lot of stories about this. Next slide, please. So, who are the people driving the Nigerian stock market? Foreigners or Nigerians? Green is for foreign portfolio investors. Red is for domestic. In 2021, it was almost the domestic investors were 1.46 trillion and the foreigners were 0.4 trillion. Look at what has happened in 2025. Domestic investors are 8.35. They are 4 times the foreign portfolio investors. And look at what we are projecting in 2030. Domestic investors will be 16.6 trillion, and this will be 69.8. And this does not take into consideration the listing of the Dangote refinery, which is going to increase market capitalization by over 100%. Next slide, please. So, what are you going to buy in 2026? Again, first, if you are buying internationally, NVIDIA looks good. Microsoft, Amazon, AMD, Visa, Eli Lilly, those are interesting stocks. Apple continues to dominate, and we also like Oracle. Domestically, MTN is doing a lot of good things, and of course, they're growing rapidly. Kokomo oil, strong domestic demand. Guinness has recovered from problems of the past and is now doing well. Transcorp Power looks interesting. Never, never forget Dangote Cement, 1, Dangote Refinery, 2. This 2 alone is going to double the size of the Nigerian stock market. Next slide, please. So, 2026 will be a year like no other. Why do we say this? In January, Bulgaria adopts the euro as its currency. The Basel III rules will be postponed. In February, Lunar New Year and lasting statistics, Olympic Winter Games will start in Milan, and Cricket World Cup will begin in India. Big year. March, 250 years of the celebration of Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations. Also, March 19, we'll have March 20 and 19, we would have the Salah, and April 4 and 5, we'll have Easter. Very close together, so we're going to have celebration time. In June, FIFA World Cup, first match in Mexico, and then it ends up in Los Angeles. On July 4, America was celebrating 250 years of its independence. In July 19, there'll be Commonwealth Games. And then August 12, there'll be total eclipse of the world. And in November 3rd, there'll be elections in the United States. Who knows what will happen? So for Nigeria, the election spending starts now, or started yesterday or last year. That's number 1. Number 2, insecurity is slow, but again, productivity without fairness and equity will lead to insecurity. Number 3, debt service will be down, but we are increasing our borrowing. Number 4, the Tax Reform Act kicks in. Everybody says, how is it going to affect me? Nobody knows. But when we get there, the sweetness of the pudding is in the eating. But again, taxation without legislation is inflation. Now, PMS import duty must happen in the first quarter, 15% to protect the domestic refineries and productivity. So it's a year of interesting year of imponderables, but who knows? What you see is what you get, but what you don't see is what gets you.
Fantastic. That was quite an interesting one, Mr. Rewane, and I've been so entertained. I had my popcorn here, watching this, presentation, and definitely a lot to chew on,
yes.
At this point. Looking at how much, debt has risen so far, yet we don't have that much, to show for, the rise in debt.
He who goes a borrowing goes a sorrowing.
Soaring.
Okay.
Then we have, inflation moderating. That's in the good side. GDP rising. Oil refining, sector, we've seen that also growing about 19%. That's a great one. Interesting, Adam Smith, 250 years.
Yeah.
Wow,
he wrote the Wealth of Nations.
The Wealth of Nations. I love that book.
There are 3 types of it. There are economic thinkers.
Right.
There are economists, practicing economists, and there are quacks. So in Nigeria, I think we have more quacks than economic thinkers.
Fantastic. Well, that's quite interesting. But, 250 years, that's quite incredible. Yes. The U.S. also celebrating 250 years of independence. Then I love the way you put the tax reforms there. We'll all taste it.
Yes. The sweetness of the pudding is in eating.
Yes,
but don't forget,
eat it.
The reason why you had the War of Independence, no taxation without representation.
Right.
That's 250 years ago. That's when the War of Independence, and right? Again, taxation, but it's what you do with the tax, right? So far, we've been able to keep inflation down. So far, the Ministry of Finance has been able to keep things on even keel, block leakages, but now, sending the money back into the system so that there can be an improved welfare of the people and happiness, that's the challenge. So, again, the international community is watching. They like what they see at the central bank. They like what they're seeing in the Ministry of Finance. They like that. And so our outlook and ratings are good. But again, if you don't recycle that money, and if it doesn't turn into welfare and happiness of the people, like remember what I said, productivity without equity will lead to insecurity. And with insecurity there, our bets are off.
Fantastic. Let's see how to make the people happy.
Yes, that's the name.
With the next one. Thank you so much, sir, for this presentation. That was Mr. Bismarck Rewane there, taking stock of what's played out in 2025 and what to expect in 2026.